What if I told you that the most famous shipwreck in history never actually happened? We all know the story. April 14th, 1912. The unsinkable Titanic hits an iceberg and plunges into the North Atlantic, taking 1,500 souls with her. It is a tragedy of hubris, but for over a century, a darker whisper has circulated among historians and sailors. A theory that suggests the ship lying at the bottom of the ocean is not the Titanic. They say it was her older, damaged sister, the RMS Olympic. According to this theory, the sinking wasn't an accident. It was the greatest insurance fraud in history, orchestrated by one of the most powerful men on Earth. They didn't mean to kill anyone, but something went terribly wrong. Forget what you saw in the movies. Let's look at the evidence that has been hidden under 12,000 feet of water for 6,000 years. To understand the swap, we must look at the older sister, the RMS Olympic. She launched a year before Titanic and was the jewel of the White Star Line. But she was unlucky. In 1911, under the command of Captain Edward Smith, the same man who would later captain the Titanic, the Olympic collided with a British warship, the HMS Hawke. The damage was massive. The hull was punctured, and the keel was twisted. The company was in trouble. The insurance refused to pay because the accident was ruled as Olympic's fault. Repairs would cost millions and delay the launch of the Titanic. White Star Line was facing bankruptcy. They had a broken ship that was costing them a fortune and a new ship that wasn't ready. That's when conspiracy theorists believe a dark plan was hatched. Why not patch up the damaged Olympic, paint the name Titanic on her hull, and send her out to sink? They could collect the full insurance on a brand new ship while getting rid of a broken one. The plan, allegedly, was simple. The ship, secretly the damaged Olympic, would sail to a specific spot in the Atlantic and stage an accident. Maybe hit an iceberg, maybe a controlled leak. It wasn't supposed to be a disaster. Another White Star Line ship, the SS Californian, was docked nearby in the ice field, completely empty of passengers, waiting with steam up. The plan was for the Titanic to send distress flares, and the Californian would rush in to rescue everyone. The passengers would be saved, the Titanic would sink, and the insurance check would clear. But on that fateful night, Captain Smith made a fatal mistake. He miscalculated the position. The Titanic was 12 miles further away than planned. The Californians saw the flares, but they were too far to understand the signal. They thought it was a celebration. The rescue ship never came, and the unsinkable ship began to sink way faster than anyone anticipated. But here is the strangest coincidence of all. The owner of the Titanic, the billionaire J.P. Morgan, was scheduled to be on the maiden voyage. He had a private suite booked. Hours before departure, Morgan canceled. He claimed he was ill. Yet he was seen days later in France, perfectly healthy and enjoying a holiday with his mistress. And he wasn't alone. 50 of his close friends and business associates also canceled their tickets at the last minute, including Milton Hershey, the chocolate tycoon. Even more suspiciously, just before the ship sailed, J.P. Morgan ordered the removal of 7 precious bronze statues from his private suite. Why remove art from a brand new ship unless you know it's never coming back? While Morgan stayed safe on land, his biggest business rivals, Jacob Astor, Isidor Straus, and Benjamin Guggenheim, boarded the ship. All three were powerful men who opposed the creation of the Federal Reserve, a project Morgan was desperate to launch. All three died that night. On the night of the collision, the coincidences became deadly. The lookouts in the crow's nest didn't have binoculars. Why? Because the officer holding the key to the binocular cabinet was removed from the ship at the last minute, and he accidentally took the key with him. Without binoculars, they saw the iceberg 30 seconds too late. But the most damning evidence is visual. The Olympic and the Titanic were nearly identical, but they had small differences. The Titanic had 14 portholes, windows, on its sea deck. The Olympic had 16. Photographs of the ship that sailed that day show it had 16 portholes. Furthermore, passengers on the deck noted that the ship had a slight list to the port side, the exact same heavy list that the damaged Olympic had after its crash. Were they sailing on a broken ship from the very moment they left Southampton? When Robert Ballard discovered the wreck in 1985, the world held its breath. But looking closely at the propellers, underwater drones found a serial number, 401, Titanic's serial number. This single piece of metal suggests it was the Titanic. However, conspiracy theorists point to the bow. Where the name Titanic is painted, the letters seem to be riveted over another name underneath. Some claim they can see the letters M and P from Olympic showing through the rust. Did J.P. Morgan really swap the ships to commit insurance fraud? Or is it just a fantasy to make sense of a senseless tragedy? We may never know the full truth, but somewhere in the deep, cold Atlantic, 1,500 souls are resting with a ship that, perhaps, was never meant to be there. What do you think? Was it the Titanic or the Olympic? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching.